Welcome to This Explainer. Listen, if you have ever stood at the front of a room and just felt like you were completely losing the crowd to absolute chaos, you're in the right place. Today, we're really digging into the nuts and bolts of classroom management. We're going to visualize exactly how we can take a room full of endless distractions and transform it into a space of total, dialed-in focus. So let's jump right in.
Okay, to kick things off, there's this quote that honestly completely flips the script on our biggest frustrations as educators. It says, "Most disruptive students become inattentive when they are bored, feel ignored, or have excess energy." You know, we tend to think of disruptive behavior as this permanent personality trait, like a kid is just inherently naughty. But the material we're looking at today reveals that disruption is actually just a symptom. It's a symptom of boredom, a feeling of invisibility, or just having way too much energy trapped behind a desk. And the best part about symptoms, they can be treated. We can absolutely fix this.
So here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with number 1, the root of disruption, followed by 2, rules and active participation. Then 3, turning troublemakers into leaders, and finally 4, the 45-minute active lecture. Stick with me here, because you are going to walk away with a highly concrete, copy-paste lesson plan formula that you can literally use tomorrow morning.
All right, moving right into section 1, the root of disruption, and how we need to completely reframe the problem we're facing.
Now, before we try to fix the problem, we have to define what the solution actually looks like. When we talk about keeping students active, we aren't just talking about having them run around the room for the sake of it. It's a whole ecosystem. Active learning requires engaging teaching methods, positive classroom management, and crucially, very clear expectations. You really cannot have an active, high-energy room without simple, crystal-clear rules set from the very beginning of the session. You've got to explain the consequences of disruptive behavior from day one and apply them consistently using positive language. In a weird way, structure is actually what creates the freedom for active participation.
But hey, what happens when that structure gets tested? Because, let's be real, it will be tested. Here is exactly how you handle a disruptive student calmly. Step 1 is huge. Avoid arguing publicly. You never want to embarrass a student in front of the whole class. Instead, picture this. Instead of shouting across the room and completely stopping the flow of the lesson, you simply walk closer to the disruptive student while you just keep on teaching. You use eye contact, physical proximity, or maybe just a super quiet reminder. And if that doesn't work, we move to step 3. You speak privately with them after class. Maintaining a friendly but firm professional attitude and dodging that public power struggle is absolutely paramount. Which flows perfectly into section 2. Let's look at how setting these rules builds into the core mechanics of an active classroom where every single student is kept busy.
When you look at the comparison here, it's literally night and day. The old, exhausting way of teaching relies on you speaking continuously and then doling out reactive punishment when kids inevitably lose focus. Honestly, it's draining for you and it's super boring for them. But the active model, we're using frequent questions to constantly check understanding. We're deploying active learning techniques like case-based learning, problem-solving activities, peer teaching, and think, pair, share group discussions. We're also leaning heavily into positive reinforcement, praising good behavior publicly and sincerely. That could mean extra participation marks, a certificate, or just genuine verbal appreciation. The point is, we're reinforcing the good instead of constantly acting like police officers looking for the bad.
So here is the absolute most crucial number for you to remember today, 15. This is what we call the no student left idle principle. As an educator, you should really avoid speaking continuously for more than 10 to 15 minutes. That is the hard limit for human passive listening before brains start turning off. After every short 10 to 15-minute lecture segment, you have got to involve the students in an activity, a quick discussion, or a Q&A session. This is exactly how we prevent that creeping boredom that leads directly to disruptive behavior.
And if we want to avoid those long, dragging lectures, we've got to set the pace from the very first second. You must capture their attention immediately. Start the class strong, right from the bell, with a quick 2 to 3 minute warm-up activity. We're talking about a short question, an intriguing puzzle on the board, a brief case study, or even just a wild, interesting fact related to your topic. You want to send a loud and clear signal the moment they walk in. Hey, we are active in this room. You are not just here to be a passive spectator.
All right, let's move into section 3. This is arguably the most powerful, specific strategy in this entire explainer, flipping the power dynamic for your absolute most challenging students.
Remember our core principle that disruption often stems from feeling ignored? Well, here is the ultimate antidote. Assign actual responsibilities to those naughty students. Group leader, attendance monitor, equipment manager, timekeeper.
Just picture that classic troublemaker in your mind right now. You know the one, slouching in the back row, trying to get attention by acting out. Now picture them sitting up straight, proudly holding an attendance clipboard or officially keeping time for a group activity. By giving them a leadership role, you're actually fulfilling their natural need for attention and status, but you're redirecting it into something that helps your classroom run so much smoother. It is a real game changer.
And then, for those students whose disruption stems from just having pure, unadulterated excess physical energy, we use movement activities. Seriously, don't fight the energy, channel it. Ask students to come up to the board to write an answer. Conduct standing polls where they physically have to move to different sides of the room to vote on a topic. Organize small group tasks that force interaction, or use educational games, videos, animations, and interactive quizzes. When you build movement and interactivity directly into the lesson, all that excess energy gets spent on productive participation instead of tapping pencils or annoying the kids sitting next to them.
Okay, let's bring all of these concepts together in Section 4. It is time to look at your brand new master template.
Let's turn all those abstract tips into a super concrete, minute-by-minute application. This right here is your practical formula for an active 45-minute lecture. In the first 5 minutes, we start off with an icebreaker or a quick video to instantly grab attention. Then, boom, you move into your first teaching segment for about 10 minutes, because remember, nobody sits idle for long. Right at minute 15, you break for a group activity to completely reset their attention spans. From minute 20 to 30, we go back into a second, highly focused teaching segment. By minute 30, we are applying that knowledge heavily with a quiz, a case study, or a role play. And finally, you wrap up the last 5 minutes with a summary and a quick assessment. Do you notice the pattern here? We never, ever lecture for more than 10 minutes at a time without an active break. This structure naturally eliminates boredom and burns off excess energy in a totally controlled way.
And I really want to zoom in on that very last step of the formula. You absolutely must end the class with a quick 2-minute assessment. This could be a rapid-fire quiz, an exit ticket they physically hand you on their way out the door, or just a quick oral questioning session. This serves 2 vital purposes. First, it forces the students to synthesize and lock in the learning right before they leave. And second, it acts as a measuring stick for you to see what actually stuck, so you can tweak and adjust your ACT strategies for the very next class.
Wow, so we've covered a ton of ground in this explainer today, from understanding the core psychology behind disruption to implementing a minute-by-minute active lecture template. But as you know, understanding the formula is only half the battle. Applying it is where the real magic happens. So I want you to ask yourself, if your absolute most disruptive student is really just bored, feeling invisible, or buzzing with excess energy, what specific responsibility are you going to hand them tomorrow morning? Flip the dynamic, build your active lesson, and just watch what happens to your classroom. Thanks so much for learning with us today.